I would actually have the Falcons in this tier. I think that they fit into the high risk, high reward, because I think like
Penix.
Kyle Pitts is like high reward, like the idea of him, like his talent, but it is high risk. Going Michael Penix, like, can he really be, because people thought it was a stretch taking him where he was taken in the draft.
This is going to sound like so much hate, and I swear it's not.
Welcome to the Warner Brothas Podcast. My name is Keenan, joined by my brother Kyle, joined by Timmy, and today we were going to get him possibly preseason, but there was so much preseason conversation we had to have about all divisions, predictions, and everything there. We still have those out. If you haven't gone check those out, because we've only been 1 week in, but we are 1 week in. Kyle's giving his annual, kind of feels like bi-monthly tiers he gives out for the NFL. So without further ado, Kyle, take it away.
Yeah, so I meant to give these in the preseason, but like Keenan said, we had a ton of preseason content to get out. This kind of got pushed to the side. So these are, if you're listening, like, take these in mind like these were given before week one. Obviously, we've seen the games. I can't say too much would change after 1 week, but keep in mind these are before week one. And I will be giving these pretty much every 6 weeks. So after week 6, I'll give one, after week 12, and then either before or after week 18 going into the postseason. Without further ado, let's get right to it. So bottom tier is the same tier I had as last year, which is a new era. And there's probably a couple more teams that fit into this tier, but I have 4 teams for this tier. Excuse me. And that is the Jets, the Patriots, the New Orleans Saints, the Tennessee Titans. Comments, thoughts, questions about the new era tier?
I was kind of expecting the Giants to be in this. I feel like with Abdul Carter coming in and Jackson Dart coming in, you could totally say it's a new era for them.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say they kind of deserve to be at the bottom, like they always do. So,
Well, Tim, to answer your question, I will just give the next tier because this is still kind of the bottom for me. And this is a team that I don't know. This tier is called "What Direction is the Arrow Pointing?" Because I don't know. And the Giants for me fell into this category. So I had the Browns, the Colts, the Dolphins, the Giants, and the Carolina Panthers. These are all teams who I think are near the bottom due to direction. And the reason why, to answer your question about the Giants, why I had them in here rather than the new era, is because they got Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston apparently at the helm. Eventually we'll see Jackson Dart, but it doesn't feel like a completely new regime with them still having the GM, with them still having Brian Daboll there. It feels like they're in between eras for me. And I would say the same about the Colts with their whole Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson situation. They obviously got Shane Steichen there. Panthers have just been a question mark this entire era of Dave Canales and Bryce Young. Dolphins, if y'all have heard our preseason pods, like me and Brandon feel one way about the Dolphins, whereas Keenan and Tim feel another way about the Dolphins. And even then, like, no matter how you feel, whether it's up or down, they've got a lot of talent on that roster where you just, I don't know. No matter that talent, a lot of people like Tim and Keenan have them doing what they did this past Sunday, and that's just, being DOA. That leads for a lot of questions. So that's why they are in this category for me. And of course, the Browns, like, we have no idea what the hell they actually want to do at quarterback, regardless of the rest of their roster. And I think the rest of their roster, much like the Dolphins, is a playoff roster. I think there's a ton of talent on the Browns. That being said, when you kind of punt on the QB position, unless they're really going to give Shador a chance, I just don't know what direction they're going. So, excuse me. That's why I have the Saints, Titans, Pats, Jets at the bottom, and then these 5 or 6 teams in the next tier.
So you said Miami, Cleveland, Indy, the Giants, and Panthers. Is there another team that I missed?
Nope,
okay.
That's it.
I just wanted to make sure. Okay. Timmy, you go. I'll go after.
The Browns, I think they should be like teetering on the previous tier of new era. This draft that they just had, kind of welcomed in a ton of brand new offensive talent that I think is going to be here for a while.
True.
So Dylan Sampson, Judkins, I think Harold Fannin can easily take over the tight end position once Njoku leaves. They bring in 2 quarterbacks. Maybe one of them is a guy that gets a shot and plays for a few years. But then on the defensive side, it's like the last 2 years, that's the exact same defense that they're pretty much rolling out. Same DC, same everything. So like nothing changes there. So I could see them like teetering in between. And if they were to have a really bad season and draft a quarterback in the top 5 picks next year, then they'd definitely be in that new era for me, because the entire offense at that point, minus Jerry Jeudy, would be brand new. You know, even Cedric Tillman was a pick last year that came in. You know, new regime stuff. So
Sure.
yeah. Other than that, I totally agree with like most of these tiers. The whole arrow, don't know which way the arrow's pointing. Yeah, every tier, every team in there, you can make that case for them to be like a good team or a bad team. They're probably going to all be closer to bad teams, but yeah, it's just definitely very confusing on which direction those teams are going in.
So quick question before I go on.
Sure.
These tiers are obviously like, I know you go bottom to top. So are you ranking like, say, like the Jets worse than the Giants, just to name random 2 teams, or like the Jets worse than the Panthers kind of thing? I know how you typically do your tiers is you kind of lump teams together that are alike, and then the fact that they are layered wherever they're layered is kind of how it goes for the most part. Obviously, you're not going to have the Chiefs down at a new era or something like that.
So that's what I got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9 teams, right? So I would say those 9 teams are all the bottom. It's just that the 4 that I have in the new era, those are strictly in the new era. We know the Saints are in a completely new era from where they were last year. We know the same thing with the Titans with this new quarterback, right? They sacked Will Levis. Pats obviously going for Gerard Mayo to Mike Vrabel. Jets whole new regime. Whereas the Browns, Colts, Dolphins, Giants, Panthers, a lot of the pass regime, just the players are kind of either vets or we just don't know what the hell they're doing. In the Panthers case, they're young. We just don't know what the hell they're doing. What are they actually aiming for here, right? And they start off.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure of that.
That being said, I don't know if do you have additional comments before I go on?
I have additional comments on this real quick.
Sure.
I think that like the 2 teams that I would have, like 3 teams actually, because I think I agree with Timmy too, where they're kind of leaning there. I'd almost have the Jets and the Giants like in the middle of both. Because like as the Jets have a new regime coaching, they have like the same team except for Justin Fields, and I don't think that Justin Fields is the same idea of Drake May, Cam Ward, of like he's really a part of a new era. So I think they could kind of be like what direction, but also part of a new era because you really have a new coaching system there. And then the Giants are like the opposite, where I think you have I think you're getting new basis. Obviously, Russ is starting now, but you have Jackson Dart. You get Abdul Carter. You got Cam Scatteraboo. Tyrone Tracy is new. And then, so, you have new pieces there, but you still have the Brian Daboll coaching tree. So I kind of think, those teams and then the Browns are the same kind of thing where they have the new pieces, but the old, plus the same coaching, where they're kind of in between. So I'm not, mad at either or because I think they could, both kind of finish in there. It's, almost like if you had a new era with what direction, you could kind of put them in the middle of that. But so far I'm fine with it, especially because I know you're not ranking these teams, because obviously if you were to rank them, I think the Patriots are a little better than the Panthers, but I don't think that's really much for me to argue at this moment in time. It's not really a big deal to me.
So again with the Giants, you still firmly feel in the Brian Daboll era. It doesn't necessarily I'm sure Tim, as a Giants fan, I'm sure it's new, but you're still
in the revamp rather than a new era.
Right. So Daboll's he's coaching for his job, regardless of the players on this roster. That's why Russ is there. That's why Jameis is there. Then they go ahead and get Jackson Dart. Jets, that is obviously a fair assumption because they do have a lot of the same roster from not only Aaron Rodgers, but from Zach Wilson. But it is Aaron Glenn. This is no more Robert Saleh. I think Saleh had 3-4 years there. So it's a completely different feeling as far as Aaron Glenn compared to a Robert Saleh era for me is why I put that. But you're right. Justin Fields is more of a vet quarterback. Funny to say that because he's still, in his mid to late 20s.
He's super young, but he's been around the league. I mean, he's second contract NFL league. So he's a veteran enough.
But I think if you're asking most of these teams, most of these fan bases, what's your direction? I think those would have the most question marks. Now, that being said, we had two of these teams face off in week 1 in the Colts and the Dolphins. The Colts look damn good. Whether that's because they were facing the Dolphins or that's because they're actually just well coached and Daniel Jones under a new coach, under a good coach, looks okay with some offense around him. That remains to be seen. That'll be ironed out probably by week 6 when we do the next tiers. But I do think it's interesting because just based off of
Interesting to
week
see how
1,
they look this week.
yeah. But
They play the
based off
Broncos
week 1, I might have the Colts in the next tier. And we could,
Mhm.
how we did this before, I don't remember if I did this in my season tiers, but preseason we kind of did arrows pointing up and down that they could mix into both tiers, like you guys were talking about with the Giants, with the Jets.
Mhm.
So it's possible we could do that. That being said, this next tier, fun, worth our time, and has direction. I've got the Cardinals, the Atlanta Falcons, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Las Vegas Raiders, still always want to say Oakland Raiders, and the Seattle Seahawks.
I agree. I think all these teams have direction. For the most part, they're all fun to watch. I would argue that the Cardinals are not very fun to watch, but most of these other teams, they have their weeks where they're definitely a very entertaining team. So I agree. A little bit less direction with the Raiders, in my opinion, just because I don't know how long Geno's really going to be there. I don't even remember his deal. I believe it was 3 years. So the direction beyond Geno
I think he
is
got the
still
Baker.
questionable.
Was it the 3 or 100 mil? Did he
I
get
think
that?
so. 3-year
I think-
100 with some incentives or
Yeah,
something.
I think he had the Baker. So you had the Cardinals, Seahawks, Raiders, Jags, and what other team was it?
Falcons.
So I'll have to see what some of these other tiers are ahead, but I have no problem with anybody in the tier. There's just a couple teams that I might like. Atlanta, I might move up depending on what the next tier is like named and like how it's kind of structured. So like I have to kind of wait and see with them. I just have a little bit higher feeling, but like I think all of these teams for the most part fun, worth our time and have direction. I think the Cardinals are kind of teetering between fun, have our time with direction, and what direction's the arrow pointing. Because I think like they have a lot of the same regime, a lot of the same team, and it's can this team actually utilize the talent it has right now? Or is it actually in a place where we might need to see like a regime change? Like if this thing goes 6-11, 5-12 again, is Kyler really the guy that's going to help take us to that next step? So I think they're kind of teetering in between for me. But I do think they're worth our time. I don't think they're a team that's like, let's get this team out of here. So I get where you have them there. I think they could teeter to both.
Yeah, and to address the teams you mentioned, I mean, for instance, though, like I could have the Jags in the new era. I could have the Raiders in the new era. But the Raiders, the reason why I say they do have direction, the reason why they got Geno, the reason why they got Pete Carroll is to at least be competitive. They want to be a playoff team, and that much is clear, which is why I have them in this tier. Falcons, reason why I don't have them maybe above, which they could probably fit above, is because I'm not really sure about their defense. This wasn't really an offense question, but they actually really could fit into the next tier that I will be talking about. And the Cardinals, same thing. Like we know where they want to be. We know the Cardinals are at least gunning for the playoffs. We know they have offensive talent. Again, like I said last year, by most metrics, by every metric, I think, every major metric, this was a top 10 offensive team. So we know they got the talent. We know they got decent coaching. It's a matter of, like you said, can they execute? And I think they've been, I don't remember the year prior when Kyler was injured, but, last year they're a bubble team. I think they'll be in that direction of a bubble team. If not, who knows how this shakes out with the Brock Purdy and George Kittle injuries. They could firmly supplant themselves at the top of the division. So we'll see with the Cardinals, but they at least have a direction. They at least have offensive talent. The defense is emerging, but they have direction is the point here.
Okay.
Next year?
Yeah.
High risk, high reward. I have the Chicago Bears, the Los Angeles Rams, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Minnesota Vikings. And there was a couple teams here who I had in higher tiers, and they would actually probably I'll get to it when I explain the next tier, but there's two teams in particular here that I would probably have arrow pointing up and down into this tier. Naturally, though, the Bears, I mean, we've said it. We've talked about the Bears and the Vikings in particular a ton in the preseason. We know, I mean, we saw it exactly when these two teams faced off on Monday, why they're high risk, high reward. We saw it. JJ looked terrible that first half. Caleb looked a little better in the first half. The Bears were rolling. The Bears have a ton of defensive talent, much like the Vikings. The Vikings looked like a great defensive team once shit got down to it. But we saw the risk and the reward with both QBs. They're young, and I would put the coaching on top of that with the Bears. We really don't know about Ben Johnson yet, but we did look decent, I guess, on Monday. But between those two with their young QBs and their talented rosters, and the Rams and the Steelers with their old QBs and talented rosters, it's high risk, high reward. The best version of those teams are contenders. The worst version of those teams are not contenders. High risk, high reward.
How many teams have you named? What are we at here?
4, 9, 14, 18.
18. Interesting. I agree with the tier. I mean, they're all definitely, like you said, high risk, high reward. In one way or another, there is at least some sort of risk. And a lot of these teams, I think people would say, are fringe Super Bowl teams where it wouldn't completely surprise you if they made it to a Super Bowl. Like the Rams, I think a lot of people would say that about the Steelers. Yeah, I just think, I know this isn't a power ranking, but to have the Rams in like this vein feels a little low for them, but I agree with the tier that they're in.
I think it'll make more sense once you hear the other tiers, because this is in essence a contender tier, but it's also like you're kind of hedging bets here with these teams because they could be contenders, they could be awful. If the worst version of them peaks out, you know, they're not playoff teams or they're fringe playoff teams. The best version are contenders, I believe. Go ahead, Keenan.
So I would actually have the Falcons in this tier. I think that they fit into the high risk, high reward because I think like Kyle Pitts is like high reward, like the idea of him, like his talent, but it is high risk. Going Michael Penix, like can he really be? Because people thought it was a stretch taking him where he was taken in the draft. Obviously, Bijan's not really high risk, but he can be super high reward. I just think a lot of their team is high risk, high reward. So I think they could be there. And with Minnesota, I almost feel like I'm fine with them being at this line, like exactly with the team placement. They almost feel like medium to low risk, high reward. I just feel like they have like, I mean, you could say this kind of about a lot like the Rams and the Steelers, but for them, I just think they're young, they're talented, and with their coaching, with Flores and O'Connell, they have such a floor that the risk of them being bad is so low, but the reward of them being high is there. Which you could say the same thing technically about the Steelers because like they don't lose, they don't have losing seasons, and then Sean McVay is such a good coach. So you could almost say this is like a medium low risk, high reward, but I also get the high risk of rookie. You decided to go off of the quarterback that led you to 14 wins to go with the rookie quarterback that you had just drafted. You go get the 41-year-old veteran quarterback in Aaron Rodgers to go lead the team to think that that's going to be the move. You have the 37-year-old Matt Stafford with the bad back to go lead this roster. Like you have take your chance on Devontae Adams. You let Cooper Kupp go. So, like, I get it. And then I think the Bears are just a definition of high risk, high reward. I think everything about them is just high risk, high reward. Like, the whole thing could go 5-12, but the whole thing feels like at pinnacle could go 12-5. Like, they feel high risk, high reward.
Yeah, I mean,
also Dallas kind of feels this way too. But go on.
Sure. And the difference between Dallas and, again, the Steelers and the Rams in particular, Stafford and Rodgers in particular, they're one hit away. You hit those guys clean, who knows? You can say that about anyone in football, of course, but particularly those two, that could submarine your season.
They're one regular hit away. Like, a lot of people are, like, obviously one terrible hit, like one bad injury. But, like, for some of them, it's like one just, I got hit, like, hard by somebody. And then, like, it happened there. They're one regular hit away, which makes them high risk.
And I got to disagree on the Vikings being medium risk because, again, you jettison a quarterback that got you to 14 wins. This quarterback better be good. This quarterback better at least get you to 8 or 9, because if it's 7 or below, like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? You clearly have a contending roster there. So it's high risk to me, especially in that division where you got 4 competitive teams. And again, the Bears and Vikings to me are one and the same with those QBs. Because I mean, a lot of that loss on Monday to me for the Bears was on Caleb, and he's going to be the one who really makes or breaks his team. And counter that, the Bears and the Vikings to the other young team, Keenan, you mentioned, Atlanta, who again, they could be in this tier. I think we've seen it from all facets of the game with the Bears and the Vikings, right? Special teams is all right. The defense is great on both ends. They've got talent at the skill positions. It's a matter of putting it together. Whereas the Falcons, I'm not sure if their defense is good yet, right? We saw it in week 1, but week 1 is, weeks 1 through 4 or 5 are the preseason essentially nowadays. So, but I mean, that would be the other contender for that tier. I said the same thing was the Falcons, but I need to see more on their defensive side of the ball for them to be in that position for me. But yeah, I don't think they're far from contending necessarily. So I agree with you there. As far as Atlanta goes.
Right, then. They're good then. That's fine.
All right.
So that's fine. No, you had everything. I can't really disagree. I get what you're saying. We may have a little bit of a difference on the Vikings we thought, but I think that they should be roughly around these teams. I can't really even be Kyle, you should have named it medium risk. Golly, this is horrendous. It's just okay. But we have a little bit of different thoughts, but you're right. I mean, going from 14 wins with Sam Darnold to going to JJ McCarthy, that is a little bit of a risk, but I think it's just because their floor of just how good their team is in coaching and infrastructure is just so it kind of makes it a lower risk to me, but go on.
Yeah, for sure. And again, these 4 teams that I just mentioned, they could absolutely be in this tier that I'm about to mention and probably should be. But to me, these 4 are a little more solid depending on how you look at it. I mean, I think I'll just name them and I'll tell you my opinion on these teams, but could be contenders. I got 4 teams here as well. The Cincinnati Bengals, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Dallas Cowboys, and the Houston Texans. I'll let y'all react before I explain anything.
I agree that they could be contenders. I'm a lot lower on a lot of these teams. I think
we know you're lower on the Texans.
I think I am too, honestly.
You're lower on the state of Texas.
Yeah. Could you name the tier again? I don't remember.
Could be contenders.
The Chargers, the Cowboys, the Bengals, and the Texans.
Gotcha. I think the Chargers, for me, before the season, were creeping into the contenders tier, and I think I probably would have put them in the contenders tier. At the end of the season last year, I picked them to win some playoff games, so I was definitely a little bit higher on the Chargers to end the season. The other 3 are just teams that I am just not high on at all. So, again, I agree that they could be contenders with an additional piece or something like that, but it's going to take a good change for that to happen. Like with Houston, if they don't get an offensive line, they will not be a contender ever because CJ can't take a hit on every other play and win football games. That just doesn't happen. For me, Cowboys can't be a contender with Dak Prescott as their QB, not a real one. And then the Bengals. I think the Bengals are contenders, but it's mainly about their defense. I have full hopes in their offense, but the defense, I agree, cannot keep them in it, and that does push them into the almost contenders tier for sure.
And I'll quickly go before you explain exactly your thought process on this. I would move the Rams up. I think these teams being close to each other are fine. I think I just would rearrange the 2. I would personally, going into it, because how I felt about the Chargers, I would have the Chargers probably in your next tier, depending on what it is. It all depends. I think the Chargers would be up. And then the could be contenders, I would have Cincy. I think I would honestly move Minnesota up to this and move Dallas down. So I'd flop those 2, and then I'd move the Rams up to could be contenders for where it lies right now. And I think because that one would hinder on health. And then I'd have Houston down to high risk, high reward because I think their defense is so rewarding, but their offense itself is just high risk. Joe Mixon, is he going to play? How is he going to be injury-wise? Can they stay healthy? Can they protect the quarterback? So I think I would swap a little bit of it, but I don't have a problem with anything. That's
Sure. Let me say this. To what Tim said, I'm not a big fan of at least half the teams, if not more, of these 4 teams, right? The Texans, why I have them and could be contenders is exactly this. They could easily win their division. I say easily, but, to me, it's a maybe 2.5 team division, right?
We thought the same thing last year. They won their division and won a playoff game, and they were one of the Final Four teams again after doing the same thing. So, if you're a Final Four team, you can be a contender. So
that's exactly why I have them here. I don't necessarily like the team. I don't necessarily like the roster. But if you have that quarterback and that defense, you always got a chance. They're not a bona fide 11, 12 win team, but they are a team that if they get into the playoffs, they can kind of put the fear of God in you.
And back-to-back years with a playoff win, that defense is going to be live. I mean, in CJ, we feel comfortable with him making decisions late in games. So
Sure. And the Cowboys, really, I have them here because this is where I would have had them anytime Dak Prescott's healthy. If you believe in him, fine. If not, whatever. I'm not a Dak Prescott guy, but you can't deny that anytime he's been healthy, they're a 10-plus win team. By that definition, you are a could-be contender. Whether you believe in them or not, that's up to you or Cowboy fans. But for instance, I love the Bears. All 4 of the rosters of the Bears, Rams, Steelers, and Vikings, I love them much more than the Texans and Cowboys. But by default, I feel like I got to put the Texans and Cowboys here. Just by the Cowboys being able to compete in that division. And we'll see. We'll see as the year goes on. Maybe they're a 7-win team. But this does feel like a team. We saw it. Even without Jalen Carter, we saw them compete with the Eagles. They had a real chance in that game. I think the Cowboys-Commanders games this year will be something to watch. So I think, they're not going to be in that division lead for the Eagles. I think the Eagles will have that division wrapped up. But they should be competing with the Commanders, who were in the NFC Championship game last year, for at least second in that division. So that's why I have them tiered there. Chargers, I think you guys kind of heard how I feel about the Chargers when we discussed them. I'm with you, Tim. I really liked the Chargers last year. I liked their roster. That was a team I'm big on. I love Jim Harbaugh. It felt like they kind of took a slip in the offseason, and it's a very competitive division. And if I had to choose between them or the Broncos, obviously I had the Broncos winning the division. So that's more of a proxy of that. And it was a could be because it's based on Justin Herbert taking a step up. And then the Bengals, we've said it ad nauseum, all depends on their defense. So that's why the Bengals are here.
The Bengals are the definition. Like the way the Chicago's high risk, high reward definition, the Bengals are the definition of could be contenders. Super Bowl offense, bottom tier defense.
JV defense.
Literally puts you in the could be because every game could look like what Bills Ravens looked like 41-40. And you feel comfortable with the Bengals winning half of those games. But when the other quarterbacks in your conference are Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, CJ Stroud, when you have all of those quarterbacks in your conference, it's difficult. And also if you're getting up that high, we saw Aaron Rodgers darting some throws around there, put 34 up on the Jets. So, you've got people in your division who can do that, but I think that they're the definition. I would probably switch to the Broncos with the Chargers, where we have the Broncos, which is probably the next tier, I think, but I would have to see where the Broncos are and what they're in.
And again, this is for the listeners, for everyone here. It's a tier list, not a power ranking, right? Because power rankings probably would be a little different. Some of these teams would be closer to the bottom. So again, you could almost group from high risk, high reward up to the next tier. You could almost have these guys all in the same tier for being literal, but they're just tiered differently. Last thing I want to say, from what we saw on Friday from Justin Herbert, they damn well deserve to be, just off one game, look like they deserve to be in the contending group, right? They beat a contending team, looked like the better team most of that game. So again, we'll see in 6 weeks. But now to this next tier. It's just two teams. Sure.
Hold on.
Oh, sure.
Timmy had something.
I got 2 things.
Yeah.
The Chargers, I would put in whatever tier you have the Broncos and the Bucks in. I'm assuming they're either in 1 tier or in 2 tiers. That's where I feel about them.
Sure.
And then 2, I think you could have gotten away putting the Cowboys lower into the tier prior to this, just because it's Schottenheimer's first year.
You know what?
And that's a big deal.
They are
a 10-win team, 100% when everybody's healthy. But it is his first year. We really don't know what it's going to look like in.
And
2
now
weeks,
with no
3
Micah
weeks.
too, that could kind of high risk, high reward kind of thing.
Yeah,
makes sense.
I'm even okay with
fun with whatever Baz direction.
I'm even okay with even taking what I could do. I could even eliminate that tier altogether and put all three of the Bengals, Texans, and Cowboys in high risk, high reward and group everyone there together. And then Chargers don't really fit into this next tier, and you'll hear it in a second, but it does feel like the Chargers are a little more complete than all three of those teams. So that's fair. And the Cowboys, if we're just speaking strictly to the Cowboys, I think I will move the Cowboys down to high risk, high reward.
You know,
And
I
again,
like how this is a true thought exercise for you sometimes. You're like, you know what? Now that we're talking about it, I love it. I think it's good because I mean it brings up that good direct like debate. Because like honestly, you could make me an argument other than new era, and even technically you could with a new coach. You could almost make an argument for every tier the Cowboys could be in. Fun, worth our time, has direction where you're like, okay, you have Dak, you have CD. I know they traded Micah, but the direction is we're going to try to build for the future. But that would also lead to them technically being in a new era. And then you're like, well, what arrow is the way they're pointing? Are they going up? Are they like, do they make a terrible decision to Micah? Are they going down? Like, the Cowboys are interesting with all the names of your tiers. You could put them in any single one of them, have an argument for it, and you'd be like, well, it makes sense. Whether you have them there or not, but like by the definition of what they're named, they all make sense in every single one so far.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. There's teams that, and I really did it kind of in mind with how we did it last year where we could have arrows pointing up and down. Because like the Chargers are textbook for this. Chargers could be up or down. Cowboys could be up or down. Bengals could be up or down. But it's kind of like, all right, to make this tier work, who am I choosing? Who am I not choosing? So if I had to pick one, though, the Cowboys do kind of look out of place in this group. And I would probably move them down to high risk, high reward, especially with Schottenheimer. That is a huge risk that nobody liked that higher as far as Cowboys fans. And after week one, it actually looked decent. Like they actually did look well coached, right? That's 1 week though. Who knows? So I'm actually okay with that. I would move the Cowboys down, and then maybe we can talk it out about that whole mid tier right there that I have. That's really a talented high tier. If anything, to me, the mid tier is the whole Cardinals, Falcons, Jaguars, and then down to the what direction are we doing? Any more comments? Should we go to the next one?
No, next one's good.
Keen, I'll quiz you here. What lyric does Fabulous, Brooklyn rapper Fabulous, start the Soul Tapes with? Do you know this?
Oh, hold on. Give me like 15 seconds.
Okay, all right.
I thought you were about to say what his ad lib was. I was going to say nice. But no, I thought that's what you're going with because that would fit for a tier. Oh my God. I can hear it, but I can't quote it right now.
Okay. Well, just quick refresher. Again, high risk, high reward are all could be contenders. Then we got the true could be contenders. This next group here is also contenders, but we really don't know because they're old enough to know better, young enough to not give a fuck.
Young enough to not give a.
And it's two teams. It's the Denver Broncos and it's the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, I was going to say old enough to know better. They are very young, though. You know, they have a lot of young pieces, and these young pieces are a lot of the star power on these teams. But yeah, they are both pretty veteran teams when it comes to it, just like the main piece is young. So I do agree. And these two teams we're starting to get into, that top 10 territory, and that's exactly where I think I would have both these teams. I think a lot of people would say that they're contenders, but then a lot would then argue that they're not. So I think it would be split like 50-50 on whether people think these teams are contenders or not.
And that's exactly why they're in this tier. Keenan, go ahead.
I would have the Chargers. I would have the Chargers with them, but yeah, I agree with these two teams being here. And the reason why is because like old enough to know better, where it's Justin Herbert's been there, like obviously, but you still have your young players like Lad McConkey, still young. Omarion Hampton, still young. Obviously, Slater is young, but he got injured. Joe Alt, young. So, like, you have
Keenan Allen, super.
But Keenan Allen, absolutely. I mean, he's old. He's old enough to know better.
They got like 32-year-old Khalil Mack.
So I think there are pieces like Derwin James, old enough to know better, but sometimes he's still on the other side where he's young enough to really not get. Derwin James kind of goes out there and does his own thing. I feel like they could fit there. And taking even out the names, I think tier-wise, the Chargers fit more with the Commanders and the Broncos rather than the Bengals and the Texans. So I would have the Chargers up. I'd have Dallas down, and then the high could be contenders. I'm fine with it being Cincinnati and Houston, and then maybe the Rams there too. Like your could be contenders. So that's my thought initially right now.
So funny enough about the Chargers, I was kind of thinking like, I felt the same thing. I was like, the Chargers could be probably in between where the Bengals are and where the Commanders and Broncos are. Do you guys remember where I had the Chargers last year for preseason?
I don't. Unfortunately.
So they were actually, Tim, do you remember by chance?
No, I'm trying to remember any tier names and I just don't.
So funny. This is funny. Chargers and the Jets, I think were the only teams preseason. I had them in their own tier, just by themselves. Because I felt like you had to grade them by themselves. I nearly put the Chargers in their own category, but didn't because of redundancy. But I nearly put the Chargers in the same group, and maybe I'll do that again because, man, yeah, it feels like they could be a contender, or it feels like they could just be a step behind.
Yeah, you had the Chargers just by themselves right under "It's a Party" and 6 question marks. I'm looking at them right now.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah, so I feel like I could have the Chargers there again because it's all with them. It's Justin Herbert. That's really all it is. If Herbert performs, they're going to be a contender. And if he doesn't, which we know he will during the regular season, but if he were to take a step back or if he was the same, then they're in risk for being a bubble team. If he's playing how he was on Monday night, I mean, that looks like an 11-win team to me. If that's a team we saw, if we see that team every week, I don't think there's any doubt they'll be in the playoffs. But to the Broncos and Commanders, though, reason why they're in this tier, nobody in the football world expected either one of these teams to be where they were last year. Broncos being a 10-11 win team, Commanders obviously in the NFC Championship game. And then the Broncos built their team going into this season to be a contender. And you got people like me who had them as a 12-win team and winning their division. They've got to actually go out and do that. You know what I mean? They actually got to go out and perform. Commanders got to go out and perform how they did last year and put that to the test this year. So there are two teams that, like, if they miss the playoffs, I wouldn't be totally surprised, especially when you've got the Chargers, Raiders, and the Chiefs and the AFC West, especially with the Commanders. The NFC's loaded. So it wouldn't be a shame for either one of these teams to fall out of the playoffs, but they clearly have contending in Super Bowl and AFC and NFC championship aspirations. So I don't necessarily think these teams are better than teams I have below them. Like, again, I'd have the Steelers probably in the true contending tier, but they have real questions. So, there's teams below that I definitely think are better than teams ahead. But again, it's a tier, not a power ranking. So that's a difference. But I'm definitely going to consider making the Chargers their own tier, much like I did last preseason, because they're in the same exact place, honestly. It's very Herbert dependent.
Okay. Otherwise, I'm good. I would have the Chargers next to them. If you have them in their own tier, makes sense. But otherwise, I think I'm fine with it. Jimmy, I don't know if you have any other comments, concerns. All right.
Yeah.
Let's move.
And last thing I'll say about the Chargers, why they wouldn't be in that tier, they just feel a little more vet. And they had a little more expectations compared to the Broncos and the Commanders last year, whereas we had no expectations for them. And lastly, the true contenders. Obvious ones, of course, and then some names you haven't heard that maybe you expected prior. But we got the Buffalo Bills, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Kansas City Chiefs, Detroit Lions, Green Bay Packers, Baltimore Ravens, and the San Francisco 49ers. Niners and Bucks, you could definitely make a case for them to be in other tiers rather than here. Again, this is not a case of them being a top 10 team or not. This is more of, if you're the Buccaneers and you're going into training camp, they're thinking about Super Bowl. I don't think they're talking about divisional weekend. I don't think they're talking about making the playoffs. I think they're firmly thinking about Super Bowl. Same with the 49ers. I don't think the Niners are talking anything else other than, the second weekend of February. So that's why I'd have them grouped. Everyone else, I don't think there's any argument for Ravens, Packers, Lions, Chiefs, Bills. So, and then obviously this doesn't have to be said, but ahead of them in their own tier, obviously the reigning defending Eagles. So Eagles in their own tier, and then we got 7 contenders there, I believe. 7, yeah.
Ravens, sorry. Go on.
Yeah. I personally would have been perfectly fine if you just put all 8 teams in this and just, yes, they are reigning defending and they deserve their own tier for it, but I don't necessarily think that the Eagles are better than any of the teams in this tier. So I would say you could you could clump them and just call it good. These are the heavy hitters. These are the contenders. These are like 98% chance one of these teams wins the Super Bowl. Like, I really don't see, if another team were to do it, they would have to run the table and win 3 playoff games and a Super Bowl. So it would be very difficult. But yeah, I agree.
I would have this tier split into 2, personally. Like, I know I'm not as high in this team as you guys are. I don't think the 49ers are the same level as the Ravens or the Bills, personally, to me. I think that they're both, like, I think that they compete. They both belong in true contenders because, like, for what their conference is and where they are, I think the 49ers, I have them winning the division. And I think if they can win the division and compete, obviously, in the playoffs, I don't have them winning, but I wouldn't be shocked to be like, oh, Brock Purdy's in the divisional round. I think they're a contender. I just think that there are levels to the contender. I would personally have myself would have Buffalo. I would have AFC in one and the NFC in the other, and the only other one I'd have up next to the AFC would be Green Bay. I think I'd have Buffalo, Kansas City, or even if you want to put Kansas City down after week 1, but you have to think this is still preseason. We're talking about it. Week 1 kind of made it look a little bit more different. So I'd have Buffalo, Baltimore, Green Bay, Kansas City in one, and then Detroit, Tampa, San Francisco in another. I gotta have that true contender 1, true contender, and have fun with the Eagles at the top. I'm always fine with the champs being at the top until they're dethroned.
Yeah, I mean, it would be tough for me to honestly put, regardless of what we saw in week 1, I can't put a team that won 15 games last year in the Lions, I can't put them in another tier below the Packers necessarily, who haven't been to an NFC championship game. That's why I kind of got all these guys here together, because these teams.
So okay, fair enough. Preseason, I would have Tampa and San Fran below then, because I still got to think preseason. Yeah. I know they got the 2 different coordinators, but everything's there, so I'm fine with Detroit being up there.
And again, like, yeah, sure, I don't think the Niners are as good as the Bills or the Ravens either. But what are the 49ers going into camp thinking? Same thing the Ravens and the Chiefs and the like they have reason to believe they're a Super Bowl contender, and they're before this week, obviously they're healthy. Obviously now we know Purdy and Kittle are not healthy, so that's already going to throw their shit into the mix. That being said, preseason training camp, yeah, I mean, the Niners have been a contending team during this Kyle Shanahan era. They have no reason to believe they're not. Again, if this is a power ranking, 100%, the Niners aren't going to be close to the Packers or to the Bills or to the Ravens. But if I'm tiering these guys, again, preseason before week 1, it's exactly how I'd have it. And again, you can make other people would have the Bengals up here, right? They just have too many questions because the Bengals are definitely thinking Super Bowl, but that's why it's a tier, not a power ranking. But, the deeper we go, the more it will become more of a power ranking, just tier differently. Yeah. And that's kind of why, real quick, that's kind of why I like tiers more than power rankings, because power rankings, you can get into the, 15 should be ahead of 12, because I find myself doing that a lot with the NFL's true power rankings off their website. Like, there'll be times they have a team that's 5-0 or 3-1 who is not as good, right? It's one of those teams that's a surprise team, but they'll have them at like number 8 based off their record. Where I think tiers can give you more concrete and more depth, especially with, however you got it titled. So that's why I like doing
the Cardinals. Cardinals most likely are going to be 2-0, and the Chiefs possibly could be 0-2. No one in their right mind is going to say that the Cardinals are better than the Chiefs.
Exactly, right? We're not calling the Cardinals a contender off 2 wins compared to.
Yeah, I was going to say against the Saints, and then they're playing, I believe, the Panthers this week, and obviously the Chiefs see the Chargers in Brazil, and then they're going and see the reigning defending champs. So like obviously, like realistically, the Chiefs could be 0-2, the Cardinals can be 2-0. No one in their right mind's like, yeah, if they met, we're betting the Cardinals to win that game. But no. So I get it, and I get the mindset of all of them being within that realm. I would just split it up a little bit there, but
sure. And
otherwise, I don't think it's crazy. I like power rankings too for that reason. Like, that's purposely why I'll rank my quarterbacks while putting them in a tier, just because I like there to be an argument. Yeah. Like, I kind of like the argument.
And we could,
for me personally.
And maybe I will rank them as time goes on, but I like grouping teams, seeing where they're at.
Especially early season.
And especially before the season. And lost my train of thought. I was going to say something. It'll come back to me. But yeah, no, I kind of like how this looks. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm good with it. Couple tweaks, but it wouldn't be anything where I'm like, you
Mm.
have this team here.
That's what I was
Like,
gonna
and
say. That's what I was gonna
a
say.
couple tweaks, but nothing crazy.
At one point, I had like puppy contenders, true. You know what I mean? I had contenders tiered a little differently before I changed the names to like, okay, these guys can group here. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
maybe I'll send you a revised version where I got the Cowboys and Chargers in particular in different tiers, because those are the ones you guys kind of changed my mind on a little bit. We'll see. We'll see.
All right. But yeah. Okay. But Timmy, do you have any other thoughts on these tiers at all? No. I'm good.
Let me ask y'all some questions then. Who do you think? Let's forecast ahead to week 6. Who do you think will have the biggest drop, and who do you guys think will have the biggest rise?
Personally, so far, I think the 49ers could have the biggest drop, and I think that's going to be injury dependent. I think I talked before when we were doing our recap of Sunday of week 1, where I think that there are certain people, obviously you can't lose a quarterback. That's just super difficult regardless. But like George Kittle is one of those pieces where I feel like this team kind of needs it just for his blocking acumen, also along with his receiving prowess that he has. So I think like George Kittle's a super tough loss for this team. I think he unlocks this team a lot. That and McCaffrey too. Obviously he touched the ball 31 times week 1. So I think the 49ers are in jeopardy of dropping the most. And I think a team that could rise possibly the most, let me just see, kind of possibly the Rams or the Vikings, I think could manage to find their way up, or even the Chargers, because the Chargers really could just put themselves into like, we're a contender. Like there's no difference between us and some of these other teams. Like obviously I think Green Bay is more talented, but like what's the difference between us and Green Bay? Both went to the playoff last year, both lost, both have super amount of talent, can compete for the division kind of thing. So I think those would be my two teams that instantly stick out to me.
Biggest faller for me would probably be Houston. I could really see a world where they move into the 20s, the lower
What is
end.
the arrow? What direction's the arrow pointing, kind of thing?
Yeah, kind of. I think they do have a good direction with CJ in a defense.
So fun, worth our time with direction.
Oh, definitely fun, worth our time. Yeah. And then biggest risers, I'll give you 2. The Colts could be real. I could see that being like an actual scenario where they could win their division this year, so I could see them rising. And then they won't rise like super high, but I could see the Jets being a very interesting team this year.
I agree.
I like that they brought in Justin Fields, and in this first week, they showed us that they want to use him to his strengths. The 2 rushing touchdowns, a lot of designed runs, a lot of stuff that we kind of just didn't see in Chicago with his time there. So I can see this, if the defense gets good under Aaron Glenn, which I expect it to, them just jumping up into the fun, exciting to watch tier.
I could see Atlanta going to old enough to know better too. But yeah, because like they still have youth. Michael Penix is an older quarterback. They do have players who are veterans in the league, but they still obviously have a lot of youth together. I think that the Falcons have a chance to get up, where we look at them as like, because we would look at them kind of like we looked at the Commanders and Broncos last year with like, is this team actually going to be really good? Is this team actually good? It's like, oh, okay, the Broncos obviously saw the Bills, which was tough, and then the Commanders like, wait, why can we wake up with them in the Super Bowl? What's going on there? I think the Falcons could be one of those teams where we're looking second quarter of wild card week and we're like, wait a second. Why are they putting it to like, wait, hold on. What do we got here in Atlanta going on? Let's go into Mercedes-Benz.
Atlanta's must-see TV. They just got to show me a lot altogether before I give them, some sort of
I agree.
status.
I love where you have them. I think they can get up there if they're like, if that defense really comes together and then Penix looks comfortable. I love the grit he had on the game against the Bucs. I love the grit he had. So good start for me, even though they lost week 1.
For teams for me that could drop, and you could kind of base this on my my preseason, like where I have their record. I could see the Chiefs dropping. I could see the Lions dropping. I could see. I could even see technically the Broncos and Commanders. That's why they're in the tier they are, because the Broncos and Commanders can kind of go either way. Chargers, I could see rising. Texans, I could see falling. It just did not look good on Sunday, but they can kind of go either way. They just got to win the division. But I agree with you, Tim, on the Colts. I would throw the Raiders in there too. Raiders are a team I could see us, not only talking playoffs, but talking like put the fear of God in you for playoffs, possibly, if everything breaks right.
I think the Giants could move up a little bit too. I think that's just quarterback dependent. Throw Jameis in there, Timmy. You throw Jameis in there and you let that team go.
I want to say this. I love Jameis Winston. I loved him last year as a Brown. Jameis does not help this football team. He does not play better than Russ. He does not fix the offensive line issues. I don't think Jameis is a savior at all. I think
he's fun. That's why I think he is.
He is fun, but
he's fun.
I don't think he helps them become a better team, and he doesn't give them a better chance to win football games, in my opinion, over that. Because as much as we love Jameis, he's probably going to throw a pick 6 or 2 or 3. So he has
400 yards, 3 picks, and 3 tutties. No,
he has just a good a chance to lose the game for us than he does to win the game.
We also don't know what Jackson Dart is too, so I think to be quite honest with you, I think the Giants have the defense to move up. It's just like, can they get the quarterback to play consistently, and can they figure out what the offensive line was?
Jameis weirdly works to me like on a contending team as a backup. That's where I think I'd want him. You know what I mean? He doesn't, like Tim said, he doesn't work on like a team that's trying to figure it out. He works more to me because he is talented. I mean, he's a former number 1 overall pick. And we've seen him succeed in backup situations, but I'd want him on a team that's contending or near contending. Like we've mentioned him on the Steelers.
Put him on the 40, like imagine him on the 49ers right now.
Yes.
I understand they have Mac Jones, but like trading for Winston, that offense now looks like, oh, wait, Pearsall, why is Pearsall going for $150? Like, hold up. Wait a second. Wait a minute. But like those are the type of teams where you look at him and be interesting. Or like, for some reason, if Dak went down and CD, like fantasy wise, he'd be like, get Winston in there. Winston's going to throw it to CD. Like, that's why if you put Winston in there, Malik Neighbors' fantasy relevance goes from already good to like, he might be a number 1 pick. Like, he's just going to force feed him the ball. That guy's going to get thrown.
He will at the least have 50 to 80 yard touchdowns from Jameis Winston.
Like, he is going to force feed Malik Neighbors the ball. So like, fantasy wise, Giants people should be hoping for Malik Neighbors. Owners may be hoping for Winston to get in there, unless Russell Wilson doesn't actually look as bad as he did week 1, because that was a train wreck.
And honestly, with the right coach for this Giants team, like if this was a more veteran coach, if this was Kevin O'Connell, if someone like that, we're probably like not even thinking about putting this team in the playoffs. Even with like Russ is a question mark, sure, but we've seen him have success. As we just said, Jameis could have success, but this is a pretty good roster otherwise. Like, they got talent at places, and the defense is good. So if this was more of a veteran coach, we'd probably all feel better about it. But Daboll's coaching for his job, and he's just at a different place completely than where this roster's at. So it's a weird fit all around.
Yeah.
We want to do Thursday night picks?
Absolutely. So we have got the Commanders heading to Green Bay. Green Bay is right now, as of I last checked, a 3.5 point favorite in this game. Shout out to Austin Lamore. He's going to be at this game watching it. Yeah. On Monday, he booked tickets for it because he actually had like a super good price. I think he got like under 300 for like good seats. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go to Green Bay and do it. So
YOLO.
Shout out to Austin's going to be at this game. So, but Packers favored by 3.5. I think they win and I think they cover. I've got the Packers in this game 26-21. I think it'll be fun, interesting. I don't think Mike is going to be unleashed quite yet. So I think that the Commanders aren't going to have to deal with a vaunted pass rush the way I think he'll probably be at like a 55-60% snap count. I think last week he was at like a 45-ish, but made an impact. He's going to still make an impact. And then offensively, I just think their Packers right now are too well-oiled machine. Last week they looked in midseason form against the Lions. I don't think that won't continue this week, especially with them being at home.
Prime time. This is Micah's prime time Green Bay Packers debut. So I think he ends the game for them. I have the Packers winning. I'll take it 25-17. And I think on the Commanders' attempt to go down there and tie it up or go for the win, Micah gets a nice strip sack or something like that to really end it for him.
Mm.
I'm conflicted because I've always been on record talking about how, especially early season, I don't really like these Thursday night games. Kickoff opener aside, like, I hate it. I hate the 3 days rest type of thing, especially a matchup like this. That being said, normally we get a matchup like Dolphins Jets in this situation. We get Packers Commanders right off, so I can't really complain. That being said, 24-21 Packers. But hey, if the Commanders want to be in that contending group or that contending tier of mine, this is a game the Commanders go out and win. Very tough place to play in Green Bay. I think it's a 3-point game. I think they cover. I think it'll be a good game for all of us, but lower scoring.
Yeah. So far, I would say we're like pretty we're B or better on all primetime games so far. I think the Eagles Cowboys was good. The delay kind of ruined it, but overall the game was fun. Chargers Chiefs was good. Obviously,
We missed.
What?
All of us picked the Chiefs for that one.
Yeah, we did all miss on that one, but that was a good game. That was fun. That had suspense to it.
I do believe that if Xavier Worthy doesn't get injured, it is a completely different game. So,
oh, absolutely. I mean,
injury.
I saw a lot of the down. I mean, he threw a lot of downfield passes to Tyquan Thornton and Hollywood Brown. I think those are to Xavier Worthy, and I think the connections there much more than they are with Tyquan Thornton. But we never know. It happened. We can't predict injury. So, and then obviously we had an A++ Sunday night game in Bills Ravens, and then
Classic.
Monday night, honestly, had his highs and lows. It was still a fun game. It was still a fun one. You had J.J. McCarthy throwing the pick 6 and then 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter in his first ever start. So every primetime game so far has been at least a B or better. So I think hopefully this continues in a good line of primetime games. Because honestly, outside of the primetime games, we've only got a couple good ones. Like the Jets,
week one was meh.
Jets Steelers was good, and other than that,
Tampa Atlanta was probably the next best.
Tampa Atlanta, that was the other. There was one more I was thinking of, Tampa Atlanta, but like we had just like a defensive bout in Rams, Texans, Bengals, Jags, Bengals, Browns, Jags, Panthers, bunch of ass.
I think they said only 6 games. It might even not have been 6. Hit the over. They were all unders, like across the board. It was pretty much unders.
I want to say it was going into that the Sunday night game. I think the under was 11-1.
Yeah, and I think it was only Steelers Jets. I think everything else. I think everything else hit the under because like people were expecting Tampa and Atlanta to be 31-28, 28-27 kind of thing, and that was 23-20. And then all of these games, Browns, Bengals 17-16. I think Jags, Panthers 26-10. Like it was all of these games within the mid 30s to low 40s over unders, and really,
I think the Chiefs Chargers game went over.
Might have hit the over because that was 27-21, so that would have been 48.
Yeah, I don't
so
think it was high. I think it was mid.
That
40s.
one might have hit. Because Eagles Cowboys was going to hit, and then the delay stopped that. But hopefully, it's weird because like it's kind of almost been a shift. Because comparatively in the last few years, like before, it used to always be offenses killed early, defenses figured you out mid, run game late, and run game and defense is kind of what propelled championships. But like, I mean, early seasons when you got your early seasons, Dolphins and things like that. And this week was like a slog. It was like, we figured
the under's been pretty consistent. It's been pretty consistent. I mean, you do have like the
I think the last couple of years it's made a change, but like I think like mid 2010s, like that was kind of the trend of like overs were like a lot of teams were like playing well, and then I think teams figured you out. I think as of late, though, I think you're right, and I think it might be because of less preseason. Because people are playing, like people are just playing less football, so like offenses are less buttoned up. So like they make more timing mistakes, they make more easy mistakes, and like defenses. Obviously, defense you have to be buttoned up and kind of work as a unit, but sometimes really it's easy as I'm just in better shape than you are right now, and you guys can't out scheme me. So we're kind of prepared for it. So that might be it, especially when quarterbacks haven't thrown more than 20 passes in the preseason. and they're going out there and playing live, real defenses. I don't know. Just an idea.
That's how you get the Bengals gaining 7 yards in the second half total against the Cleveland Browns.
Them against the Jags is like there's a lot of interesting games this week that I'm excited to see. A lot of interesting games.
The Bengals had negative yards in the fourth quarter too. So that 7 should have been like a 15, and they made it worse.
Yeah, because there was a possession where Myles Garrett had sacks on 3 straight plays. It was just a sack. Joe Burrow did his darndest to make sure he didn't get sacked in the end zone. He was playing hopscotch to get me over the line. He was running for his life. And it wasn't even it was some of the Caleb Williams sacks last year where he was just holding it long. It was like a 3-step drop. Well, got to scramble, figure it out. Boys, we're getting downhill. Miles is around the corner, boys. Watch out.
Real quick before we sign off.
Yeah.
2 quick complaints about a league we won't be really talking about for another month, but the NBA.
What NBA thoughts do we have, Kyle? I'd love to hear them.
They're just quick, and I just saw both, and I just shook my head at them. One, I don't know if you saw this, Keenan. They're changing the half court and 3/4 court from a player attempt to a team attempt. That seems very participation trophy of them, that sort of sports thing.
It's going to change. It's going to change 1% because you do see a lot of times though where athletes or players will dribble and then the time will go to 0. It's now I'm gonna throw it up. So I think you'll now have people throwing it up because they're I can't hurt my percentage. I don't want to be 45. I need to be at the 46.5 kind of thing because none of them are Steph. But yeah, I thought that was funny personally.
Or Pritchard. Pritchard's the other one who gets it up after.
Oh yeah, Peyton Pritchard.
Jokic
Peyton Pritchard. Yeah, when Jokic takes them, he does. No, there are some players in the league who are actually good at it. Obviously, the greatest shooter we've ever had, and then Peyton Pritchard happens to be that guy where it's find Peyton Pritchard. He just has a knack for the half court.
We almost saw Jokic last year punch a full court. It was like a tap/punch. Only Jokic could do that because he's sick in the head.
Literally, only Jokic could do.
Then the other thing I saw that really I'm man, I try to give this commissioner a chance, but he says some bullshit a lot of the time. Someone asked him about how the NBA is going to be on streaming services, how for some fans it's going to be harder because you're going to have to pay for multiple platforms to watch these games. And this man, Adam Silver, said, essentially, I'm paraphrasing, he said, that's okay because we're a highlight league. I do not want to hear that from my commissioner if I'm a fan of the NBA. Call my league a highlight league. That is so second rate compared to the NFL. You'd never in your life, I don't care how well the NFL did, if they ever did better on social media than viewing games, you'd still never hear Roger Goodell say, hey, we're a highlight league. That was one of the most pathetic quotes I've ever heard from a commissioner.
Why do you want to be a highlight league? That's not even something you want to be.
Second rate.
You should be so good that naturally you can become a highlight league because obviously in 2007 when Kobe's flying through the air, rest in peace, Kobe, or Vince Carter's taking off on lobs, and you naturally are a highlight league, but they're playing serious basketball. LeBron James with a ridiculous 44-inch vert chase down block. Those are highlights, but you're not aiming to be people only want to watch Cavs Lakers for 30 seconds so they can watch the highlights of this. No, you want to watch the game. I'm still obviously a fan. I want to watch the full games. That's my goal. But highlight league's crazy.
Somebody should tell Adam Silver that if they're a highlight league, I'll just catch it on YouTube after the game. I won't watch the game.
That's essentially what he's saying.
And why would you put it on streaming services though? It doesn't even make sense. I would just keep it on because a lot of people every single team and everybody can just look up highlights. I could go right now and go look up Lonzo Ball's highlights from his recent game and just go watch his highlights for a couple minutes or watch they put full team game highlights on that's just the jobs of people obviously because you can monetize that and get money from it. It's that's just their job. So if I wanted to watch the highlights, I could easily just watch the highlights without going through, and I just think it's ridiculous. I get wanting to own social media. I get why that would be a big avenue for you, but I think it's crazy. Like, is the WNBA going to become a cooler league to watch than the NBA? Like, is that going to be a thing? Because I know they're not pushing highlight league. At least I haven't seen it. We see highlights, of course, because you see highlights of everything. But like, I haven't seen them pushing highlight league personally. But I don't know.
I'm trying to find the exact quote.
Golly.
But he called it.
Yeah.
There's a huge amount of our content that people can essentially consume for free. And this is very much a highlights-based sport. So Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, you name it, any service, there's an enormous amount of content out there. YouTube is another example that is advertising-based that consumers can consume. Called it highlight first.
That's cool. Yeah, you're right. You can consume it. And I promise you I can consume highlights of the NFL. But you know what I'm going to do on NFL Sunday? I'm going to sit down, but watch all the games. You know what I'm really pumped about? When they go overseas. Why? Because I know football starts at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. So I can watch football all day. I can watch football for 15 straight hours uninterrupted and just watch it all day. I'm pumped about that. And I should be the same. We used to be the same always. And it's the same rant we give every year. I used to be always the same. Or, oh, Kyle, let's get together. We got Lakers Cavs tonight. Oh, hey, Kyle, let's get together. We got Heat Celtics tonight. Kyle, let's get together. We got Warriors Cavs tonight. I don't know if I know we don't live in the same area, but I don't know other than like Christmas Day because it's Christmas if we're going to be like, oh, Kyle, marquee game. We've got say Nuggets and Timberwolves tonight. Marquee game, unless we got to watch it together. We'd probably be like, if we're not busy, I guess, but we can tune in.
I don't think I've gotten together with friends for a regular season game in probably close to a decade, probably a little less, probably closer to 7 years, but definitely pre-COVID.
Before COVID.
Before COVID. And then unless you want to say when the COVID games were on during the summer when they brought back and there was technically those 10 or 15 regular season games, technically that. I do remember watching those with friends, but that was more like we were already hanging out and these happened to be on. Because, NBA in July, we never had that before, so...
Kyle, I'm not gonna lie to you. I can't remember the last regular season game where I thought that I needed to watch it with others. Obviously, I pay attention, but I haven't thought to where I want to enjoy this experience with others. It's been just I'm gonna watch it at home. But obviously NFL Sunday, where it's what are you doing on Sunday? Let's hang out. Let's go watch some football. Let's go somewhere to watch it, and that will never change.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah, and obviously the NFL has an advantage. They have a built-in tradition that the only thing that's going to change is when the season eventually moves to a full 20-week season across 18 games. That'll change a little bit. That'll barely. You know what I mean? But essentially the viewing experience will be the same. The NBA, they've neglected their fans. They will not force players to play. They will lean into the load management. They will go ahead.
I was going to say, second biggest viewing entity sports-wise in the U.S., it's got to be college football, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say.
They have a lot more games, so it would make sense.
Well, I mean, just even I think the speak and the talk around marquee college games is almost more than the speak and talk about marquee. Obviously, when it gets to the playoffs, it's the playoff. I'm thinking
dominates. The NBA still dominates, but there is because no one's paying attention to the regular season as much as we used to. The discourse is more throwing out examples here, not a real example, but has De'Aaron Fox supplanted himself as a top 5 NBA point guard above Steph Curry or something like that? You know what I mean? It's more based off, has this person supplemented LeBron or Steph? Supplanted LeBron or Steph. They use LeBron, Steph, or whoever, whatever the stars are, whether it's Jokic, whether it's Anthony Edwards. They're going to use those as a comparison to X player, Y player. Rather than...
It's LeBron, Steph, Mike, Bird.
Yeah, exactly. They're still bringing up players from the past.
It's LeBron, Mike, Bird, Magic, Kobe. That's the thing.
That's the majority of your online content.
They can't even compare them to players in the league. It's is Ant the next Mike? Is whoever better than LeBron? Is whoever better than Steph? like, is Jokic better than, like, you have to bring up the all-time greats to have these conversations, where I don't think you need to do that.
Rather
Because,
than,
like, obviously,
like, if this was the NFL, or even how the NBA used to be covered on ESPN and whatever else, like, you'd be talking about, again, just an example, not a real thing, but all right, where do the Timberwolves right now, as constructed, compare to the Nuggets? And, you know, where do those two teams compare to the OKC Thunder? Like, the talk should all be surrounding the OKC Thunder. And I've heard more about, Kobe and T-Mac as far as where they ranked in the NBA in their time, more than I've heard about the OKC Thunder this offseason here. I've honestly heard way more about Kobe. And I'm still hearing shit about Jason Tatum and where he ranks, and he's coming off a torn Achilles, and people are still debating what he was pre-Achilles, rather than talk about, okay, what do the Celtics look like without Jason Tatum moving forward? Like, what's this going to look like? Like, it's all hypotheticals and chasing ghosts, honestly. And it's pathetic.
Like, you can definitely find some basketball outlets out there that talk about a lot of, like, the nuance, not even just nuance, but just, like, today's. But a lot of your mainstream media is not going to discuss that, which is tough. And is only going to talk about it in comparison sense and not more so just in, like, obviously you kind of have to compare in certain circumstances, especially when it's the off season. But, like, you only got how good is this Thunder team for, like, a week?
Pretty much.
And then it was like a couple weeks. It was like, is this Thunder team one of the best teams of the last, like, 20 years? And then it was like, okay, we'll move on from it. It's not really that great. It's not really driving ratings. Let's go talk about LeBron again. Not going to see Luka when Luka wanted to go to it was like Luka had multiple people go to, like, a concert, and LeBron didn't go to the concert right after Luka signed his deal. It was like, well, why? Why is LeBron not going to this concert? It's like, wait a second, guys, what are we doing? I don't really care why LeBron didn't go to the concert. I'm pretty sure him and Luka have a fine relationship. Not anything we need to worry about till Ramona Shelburne comes out and drops a bomb and tells me that I need to worry about it. Once that happens, my ears will percolate a little bit and I'll worry about the story. But yeah. Golly. Haven't had an NBA rant on here in a minute. It's been nice. It's nice to talk about this sport.
TMZ ESPN.
Jeez, it's just tough, but hey, that's all right. This was fun. Kyle, good tears. Absolutely. Good. I'm glad you got that off about the NBA. Definitely needed it to be said. We'll talk more about the NBA because regardless of it, can't quit it. It's like a drug to me. I just can't quit it. Oh, natural come around when season starts. I'm gonna be pumped. Spurs Digest gonna be pumped. We're all gonna be pumped. Gonna be real excited when this season comes out. But Warner Brothas Podcast, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, all at Warner Brothas Podcast. Appreciate all of you guys here, and we'll be seeing you guys again very soon.